All right, Adam, you ready?
Yeah, you need one of those little action.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to On the Record. My name is Peyton Griggers, and I am here with my colleague Adam Cross, and we're going to be spending some time with you just talking a little bit about life in the life sciences and pharmaceutical realm from a reliability and maintenance perspective, covering the whole life cycle from concept to conclusion, I guess, so to speak. So we're going to be spending some time with Adam. We'll have several discussions that we plan on having with you, hope to have with you and Adam, and get his insight into where he sees things going in the market today and how we are much better equipped to handle that than I think we've ever been in history, and just trying to actually keep up with how fast we get more enablement and power and tools and ability to kind of drive things through and manage the life cycle. So we're just going to get things kicked off here today. I'll start off. I'm Peyton Griggers. I am an executive industry consultant. I've been in this space for about, I guess, going on 35 years, a little bit too long. Been working with the implementation and development of reliability and maintenance solutions and programs, and that's everything from, again, concept to cradle and all the systems and solutions in place, as well as the strategy as you develop your methodology and your strategic asset management plans and kind of build your approach to how you're going to tackle the asset life cycle. So with that being said, we're just going to jump in and start having a conversation. Adam, I'll let you introduce yourself and we'll get going.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, good. I'm looking forward to these conversations as well, Peyton. They've been a long time in the making, so I'm pleased we finally get a chance to sit down and have these chats. Yeah. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. My name is Adam Cross. I'm an industry director for life sciences. I haven't been in this industry quite as long as Peyton. No judgment there on my part. Only 13 years for me. Got a little bit of catching up to do, but I spend my days helping organisations get the most out of what we're actually going to talk about today, right? Which is digital asset realities. So, when we talk about digital asset realities, what we're really talking about is the capability for life sciences organizations to create and manage accurate digital representations of their physical assets and processes and procedures within their organizations. And I mean, they can take on a lot of different guises, and they can be at different levels of maturity, but all of them have significant roles to play within life sciences manufacturing, particularly when we look at not just operational efficiency, but also from a compliance standpoint as well. I guess, obviously, one of the bits, Peyton, we've been talking a little bit, one of the kind of areas that we wanted to have these conversations around, right, was that we see these digital asset realities like I say, being delivered or deployed within different organizations to a different degree, but very few or not as many as perhaps should or we'd like to see really cover what we would describe as the full asset life cycle. What's your thoughts there?
I totally agree. I think it's kind of a transitioning in thought, right? And in doing this over the years and working with, a lot of organizations and companies, I mean, the focus has always typically tended to be on the middle of the asset life cycle, right? From the point we kind of commission it and qualify it if necessary and turn it loose, turn it over to operations, the focus is typically on managing the operational life of the asset, right? So how it's kind of performing as we run it, it's in a manufacturing line, or it's in a process, or it's in a utilities kind of context, but whatever that context is, kind of managing the performance of it during its operational life and keeping it running, keeping it from breaking down, making sure we got the right parts. So that that focus has always kind of been there as things have evolved over the years. We've kind of moved from just having some kind of PM on something to now, where do I need to apply some predictive technologies? Where do I need to look at my different criticalities? So I think over time now we've become pretty good at least starting that process of thinking, okay, I know what I got, I know what's important, I know where I need to apply some different things. But what I've really seen organizations struggle with, that we're now starting to see the benefits of, is looking at the beginning and the end of the life cycle too. So how do we prepare for end of life? How do we know that asset's really reaching the end of life, other than a manufacturer saying it should be 10 years when I'm already 25 years into running this 10-year asset? So now, how do I really know I need to replace it? How do I know what I'm spending on a percent of the asset value to my annual spend on it? I start tracking that in the performance and the obsolescence, and preparing to feed into the capital planning process. And the capital planning process, how do I know how to prioritize and organize, and how do I manage all these capital projects and what to do and how my spend's going? So I think we're starting to see the need that we really need to get our hands around everything, how the end feeds into the beginning, so to speak, and we leverage those things. So it's been kind of a fun process as organizations start to open their eyes a little bit and put more emphasis on managing that full life cycle.
100%. Yeah, and I think you make a fantastic point. I think, yeah, that's exactly what I'm seeing going on, right? Is people are waking up to the fact that you need to be doing really good asset management at every stage of your assets life cycle, like you say, not just once it's kind of operational. That's a really good point. One of the things, you know, and obviously as we have these conversations with these different organizations, there are a number of different topics, let's say, that come up, right, in terms of kind of the challenges that face these companies as they try to kind of make that shift to extend their asset management programs across the life cycle. I mean, one key one that I've seen, you know, and actually something that we, you know, came up in some recent results actually that we did as part of a piece of research with Forrester, and it was around data silos. I think 86% of the organizations that we surveyed basically said that we're not as efficient in decision making as we'd like to be because we've got real issues around data silos. And I certainly see that today, and I still see that as a challenge moving forward, because I think of the way that, as you mentioned it, these organizations have kind of grown up with needing to focus on different areas, and rather thinking from kind of the start with the end in mind, they've perhaps come along and perhaps bolted in a new piece of capability or software, or however we want to term it, right, which then, you know, sometimes gets validated and locked in time and just becomes part of an ecosystem. How do organizations start to kind of break out of that sort of siloed way of working, siloed thinking?
Yeah, I think it's really slowing down a little and focusing on the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you know, there's so many, the tools out there are there and they're great, but again, how do these tools feed each other and how are they connected to the process? I think a lot of times we'll buy a system and a solution and we'll throw it in, but we really don't think through how we feed it in, how we feed it out, how they talk to each other and share that data, and what really is the end goal. I mean, one of the things I always love to start a conversation with is what are we trying to accomplish and how do we measure success? And that should be the first things we discuss anytime we're having a conversation, is what are we trying to do and how do we know if we've done it? I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. And I think putting that's those two steps are a lot of time, effort, and money, right? But doing those correctly establishes the road to success, right? So I think it's looking at the things we're talking about, you know, like how does the, you know, if I'm replacing a manufacturing line or a packaging line or a filling line, do I even, when I'm designing a new line, do I even look at that line? How's that line performed? Where are the bottlenecks on that line? What do I need to improve on that line? What kind of data do I have to feed into the design process up front to give to you? And, you know, do I have the right documentation? Do I have the right drawings? Do I have the right configuration? So I think thinking through the whole process, the whole methodology, all the tools available that you're going to use to feed it, and really determining how they feed each other and how your people interact with that too, I think is very key to building a path to success, right? It's really governance and methodology and approach, and then the system will perform based off of how you feed the system.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, and a really overlooked point, right? You know, I think we talk about, or we preach, or try to preach anyway, right? Standardization of data. And like you say, you know, certainly what I've seen is that, you know, quite often the sort of the data standards that have been created perhaps for the piece of technology or the software that's being adopted or being implemented at that time. And like you say, it hasn't got that end in mind. But if you do create those data standards for the full life cycle, you can do some, like you say, some really intelligent things, not only in terms of your own internal processes and people and practices, but also in terms of the way that you interact with your third parties, right? Your EPCs and these kind of things, so that actually the information that is flowing into your four walls, not just what you're creating, but flowing into your four walls, is of the standard that you need or you would expect to be able to take forward into life. So I mean, for me, these are kind of some of the key first steps, I guess, towards moving towards full asset lifecycle management. I don't know if you've got any other thoughts.
I think absolutely. You know, what do I even have? Understanding what I have, having that standardized to your point, ready to process. You know, understanding the significance of those assets once I know what I have. How critical is it? How important is it? Do I have things standardized? You know, thinking about the enterprise as well, not just a single site, right? If I can call a manufacturer 3 different things at 3 different sites, and all of a sudden now I've lost the ability to share data across those manufacturers or model numbers because I don't have things consistently put into my system and fed in properly. So really putting that effort effort into that data standardization and having it right, or cleaning it up, depending on where you are in the process. And again, thinking how they've talked through the whole process, right? You know, your building management system have an asset number, your EAM is going to have an asset number, your quality system is going to have an asset number, your ERP where you purchased it is going to have an asset. How do we harmonize all that together so I know that's the same asset? Really thinking through how we build that model to go forward and drive success. So it's complex challenges with complex solutions, but great rewards. You know, if you really put it together.
Yeah, I wanted to wrap up here. I just wanted to talk about the rewards, right? Because the idea is videos like this is people watch them and go, oh, that sounds like hard
get
work,
something out of that, right?
Well, what am I getting from any of this? So I think we should probably just spend a moment or two touching on that, right? I think this is
totally
the benefit, the value, as it were. So, I mean, look, you know, I've seen work with some organizations, particularly in this part of the world, that, you know, whilst they are still on the journey and still collecting or still realizing new areas of value and benefit, actually having that sort of joined up, you know, end in sight goal does allow them to actually identify opportunities for all kinds of benefit. And some of it's financial, of course, right? You know, as you would expect, you know, whether that's just through process or operational efficiency, or, you know, whether they're simply able to reduce cost in terms of what they're doing. But the other element behind it, something that sometimes gets overlooked a little bit, is the regulatory side of things. You know, your ability to keep quality happy by having this joint up approach.
Absolutely. So it's such a complex thing, right? There's a lot to manage and take care of, but the savings are very real, and they can be very, very significant as you build and process and track it. It's not an easy thing to track sometimes, but again, it goes back to putting that effort in of how do I measure success, right? But it's very real dollars and data, and I think organizations are coming around to that. They're seeing more of the value in effective processes across that asset life cycle, and how inefficient things really are, even though sometimes they're very hard to quantify. So I look forward to digging into that stuff a lot deeper with you as we kind of continue our discussions, and any sentence we've said, I think, could turn into an hour discussion. So I'm looking forward to seeing where the conversation goes, and how you and I can get smarter, and hopefully everybody kind of joining in with us can get smarter as well, and figure out how to tackle some of these things more efficiently together.
Yeah, I'd love to get people's thoughts on these topics, because, like I say, I think there's so much more to uncover, right? So yeah, look forward to it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Adam. Look forward to the next time.
Cheers, Peyton. See you next time.
All right, bud.